very bottom, you're going to see a sign up. It's to my website. You go to jenkins.tv/21. It's a 21-day email challenge. What you do is you go there, you put in an email address, and then every single day it's going to email you and say, hey, here's today's challenge. That's going to be one of the best ways you can access some of the tools we have. It's completely free. You just get in there, you sign up, you start any day that you sign up. It just gives you the thing to do the next day. The next day you do something that takes about 5 to 10 minutes. It walks you through a lot of the concepts that I've talked about for the last 3 weeks in here. This is week number 4. And then it just takes you on to some of the things that are accelerators that make things move quicker in our life, like gratitude and um, other issues that help us move, love, uh, faith. And then it also helps you walk through some of the blockers. Fear is one, envy is another, misdirected or misguided focus is another. So at any rate, all of that's there. And yeah, Andy jumps on and says, hey, I'm hopping on now, but I got to hop off. That's great. Hop on, hop off, whatever. Just kind of do the hokey pokey with the video, get what you can, get out, come back, shake it all about. All right. Let me go through this one. This one is about Oola Field, and let me kind of show you this quote. I picked this up a couple years ago. I was reading a book by Dan Miller. He's an author that has this book, 48 Days to the Work That You Love, and he really helps people find not just doing a career, not just doing a job, but really tying that to their purpose, tying that to really kind of this greater sense of calling. And you might even think about that. We used to talk about kind of the path that you chose, whatever it was that you devoted to your full time. We really talked about that in the sense of being a vocation. Even if it was a homemaker, like your vocation, which is vocal vocation, you see kind of the parallels between the words right there. Calling, vocal, it was something that was uniquely tied to you and tied to this bigger purpose that you had that was larger than you. It was literally the voice of God we thought was calling you, vocation to that thing. Well, he picks up this. This is a quote from his book, 48 Days to the Work You Love. There is a Hebrew word, avodah, from which come both the words work and worship. To the Hebrew man, you got to remember, like Paul, Hebrew mindset, Jesus, Hebrew mindset, Hebrew Old Testament. Um, of course, at the time of Paul and Jesus, it was the only testament. So to the Hebrew man, his Thursday morning activities were just as much an expression of worship as being in the synagogue on the Sabbath. Nothing in Scripture depicts the Christian life as divided into sacred and secular parts. Rather, it shows a unified life, one of wholeness, in which everything we do is service to God, including our daily work, whatever that may be. So right here, it's this, like, we tend to blur the lines and then put rigid, hey, this is sacred, this is secular, hey, this is something that's of value. He says, no, like there is no blurring of the lines. Like the way things were, and I would say even the way things are, is it's all just kind of your life before God. It's your life lived with in relationship with other people. Like it all ties together. And that includes your work being this act of worship. That word just means worth, value, ascribed to something. It's all like something bigger for a larger purpose. Okay, now don't worry if you're not into a career type thing. We're going to get to that at the end of this when we really define what field really is. So a couple years ago, I was teaching at a church. I was like the visiting teacher guy. It was on a Sunday morning, and they'd called me to come there just right down the street, right down the highway from where I live. I live in Birmingham. This was right down the street, about 50 miles away, to a church that has probably 1,500 people there. It's a huge auditorium, and they brought me there to talk about healing. So to talk about divine healing and natural health all in the same talk. And so I was really kind of talking about those. That's another topic for another thing, and I'm happy to send you the link to that. It's on my YouTube page. But as I was there, I talked about it, and at the end of it, we actually invited people who, the church had a great prayer team, so we invited people to come down that wanted prayer for healing, they had a physical issue. And so Lots of people came down, let the prayer team manage that. I just kind of stood there and just kind of watched. And, um, there were one or two people that, kind of hung out to ask me questions or talk. Well, at the end, prayer team still praying. And I look up and I notice, like, just kind of down the aisle, like second or third row back, kind of standing there. Church is over, it's dismissed. People are still getting prayed for. This woman that was there. She was kind of like a young momish type age, so she appeared to be about 28 to 30 ish. She's standing there, she's waiting to speak to me. And so I noticed that she was there and kind of motioned her for her to come up. And she had a man that I presumed to be her husband with some small kids that were with her. He was kind of hanging on to those. Like, it was obvious from that whole exchange that she was the one that had a question or wanted to talk to me. I just assumed she wanted prayer. And so I was like, yeah, what can I do for you? And so she walks up and, I kind of motioned him like, yeah, hey, come on and join us. And so he kind of stood up there close. He's still like, wrangling the kids and all of that. And she says something to me like this. She says, I don't know what to do because I've been in school for the last several years. And my husband here, he's been working 2 to 3 jobs. Like, he's been taking care of the kids all these extra hours when I'm not studying. So, like, he's getting up early. He's working a couple jobs. Like, I'm studying. I'm going to school. We've got some debt because of that, and we've made it, but like, it's been really hard. And I'm about to graduate, and I've got some job offers on the table, but I'm having second thoughts because one of the leaders in the church told me that I was called to ministry, that I should do something more spiritual. And she said, I'm really confused because I really want to serve God and I really want to do like what he wants me to do. But at the same time, like, I feel like I have been doing school for a while. My husband is sacrificed. My kids haven't seen me. And at this point, like, I need to work normal hours and put some money into the bank account, like put some gas in the tank to keep running our household, like, so that we're not like falling behind and all this kind of stuff. Like, this was going to be the moment we're going to move forward. And yet now I'm so confused. And so I asked her a couple questions and I was like, well, when do you graduate and all of that? And he's there listening. He's an incredible dude there that she was married to. And then I asked her this. I say, what is it? Like, what are you graduating? Like, what is your job? Like, what have you trained to do? Like, what are you going to be? Like, what's all? And she says, I'm going to be a nurse. Like, I've just finished nursing school. And so I asked her. I said, well, do you like it? And she says, oh, I love it. Like, I like when I'm doing it. Like, I really, really enjoy it. Like, it's hard, but like, I enjoy it. And I told her, I was like, well, you think about it like this. When you're a nurse, we just kind of spelled it out. I said, you really enjoy it. And her husband kind of piped in. He's like, she's good at it. Like, she really loves people. And she said, I'm patient. I said, well, when you're a nurse, like, you get to be with people in their most vulnerable times. Like, you get to be with people and go to places that no one else can go. Like, you are so trusted by people. I actually even said this. I said, like, you get there when people don't even have their pants on. Like, that's how trusted that you are, and they tell you things that they wouldn't tell anybody else at any other time, and the family trusts you and invites you in. And with this, if you really feel like the Lord's called you to do this, like, you have access to all the medical tools, you have access to tests, you have access to medicines, you have access to prayer, because you can still pray for them. You can pray for them out loud. A lot of times they'll even accept that, and even if they don't, like, you can still pray quietly. Like, I would think that this would be an outlet where the Lord could completely use you. After all, like, it's all his healing anyway, right? And instantly you could see this weight lift, like, just this release. And you can see, like, her husband's like, I told you, like, that's what I was telling you, is like, he's called you to do this, and we knew this, and we've been planning for this, and like, this is your thing, baby. Like, this is where you're called to shine. And it was like she just needed permission to realize that her calling, her purpose, like, it didn't have to be like spiritual. Like, it could be anywhere. Well, here's what's interesting is, a lot of people are nervous, shy about work, or they feel like work is a They feel like work is a drudge, that work is a curse. Like a lot of people even look at Genesis and go, well, work's the curse of the fall. Well, if you look at it, even before the fall, Adam is called to work. He's called the steward creation. The curse of the fall is not work. The curse of the fall is toil. Before the fall, Adam had purpose to steward. He was to make the planet better, to make everything better. He named the animals. He exercised authority. He was tending creation. He was taking care of things. And there's this interesting thing. If you really believe that, if you think that work is not a curse and really believe that work gives you purpose, doesn't give you value. Your value's been settled once for all time. That's intrinsic because you're a child of God. But if you believe that, like, it really helps give you purpose. And notice this. 1 John 5:19. So into the New Testament. We are of God, and we know that the whole world lies under the power of the evil one. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a very logical statement. Like you could even put it together and go, hey, there's evil influences in the world, and the world is like influenced by all that evil stuff. I mean, you just turn on the news right now and you go, agree. But let me go deeper here, because if you look at that, we're of God, and the whole world lies under the power of the evil one. If you look at this, there's this concordance that most pastors, most seminary teachers, like I guarantee you, like if you went and talked, some of you that go to church, if you went and talked to your pastor this weekend and said, hey, do you have Strong's Concordance? He'd be like, absolutely. Or she would be like, yes. Do you know that concordance? Yes. Is it reliable? Absolutely. Like it's a great concordance where you kind of see what words originally meant in the Greek language, or it's got cross references and all that kind of stuff. Well, Strong's says this. It says that word evil one right there, and there are multiple words that are translated as evil one throughout the scripture. Okay, so this isn't everywhere you read it, but he says that one right there, like in that verse, evil one in the Greek language is better translated as toil. So here's what John would be saying if Strong's Concordance is correct, is we are of God, and the whole world lies under the power of toil. Like he's given us a juxtaposition of, like, there's this path of purpose that God has out for you, or toil. Like you can live vocation calling, not separating like avodah, work and worship, like this all being tangled together in a beautiful way, or you can toil. You can steward, or you can struggle. You can work, or you can wilt. You see that? Like that's great alliteration. Like that's channeling like inner preacher something right there. So who likes toil? No, nobody. But who likes like creating and adding value and stewarding and looking back and seeing something that you made, whether it was with your hands or whether it was something on a screen or whether it was like something that you did at your house or some kind of decorating thing. Like everyone likes that. Now, a couple weeks ago, I posted this book that I said, hey, this is one of the best books I've read on finance. It was Money and the Prosperous Soul by Stephen DeSilva. And in that book, like he actually takes this word, this evil one, toil, and he looks through the New Testament. He finds other places where Strong's Concordance says, hey, notice this. And notice how toil can suck the life out of you. Because he says, and he just inserts other Bible verses. Let me read some of them to you. And I'll give you the references so that you can go look these up later on. Okay, so if you exchange that word, evil one, as it normally appears, for toil, because that's what Strong's Concordance says is better right there. Notice this. Matthew 13:19. Jesus says, when anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, not the evil one, but the toil comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. Matthew 13:38. The field is the world, the good seeds are the sons of the kingdom, but the tares are the sons of the toil. John 17:15, when Jesus is praying for us in the upper room. I do not pray that you should take them out of the world, but that you should keep them from toil. See, just replacing the evil one, what you typically hear, for toil. Notice this from praying the armor of God, Ephesians 6:16. Above all, take up the shield of faith with which you will be able to quench all of the fiery darts of toil. I think how many times like you and I have toiled and struggled like just for purpose, for validation, for meaning. 2 Thessalonians 3:3. But the Lord is faithful, who will establish and guard you from toil. 1 John 2:13-14. I got two more. I've written to you, young men, because you are strong and the word of God abides in you, and you have overcome toil. One more. 1 John 5:18. We know that whoever is born of God does not sin, but he who has been born of God keeps himself, and the toil does not touch him. You see the difference there? Like, what's the bigger enemy? Is the bigger enemy likely that the devil's going to come after you, come get you? Or is the bigger enemy that you and I would strain and struggle and strive and separate our purpose and our calling from the activities that we do every single day? You see, this whole thing with field, I've got a graphic here that I want to show you that I put up into the group. This whole thing with the field, it's sacred space. It's sacred space where I steward my gifts, where I steward my calling, where I serve others by living my purpose. It's sacred space that may be a full-time job, an educational pursuit, a stay-at-home opportunity, and it may morph, it may change over time. Do you see? Like this, when we talk about field, we talk about like living out a calling, living out a purpose that doesn't separate the sacred from the secular. It's not toil. It's living your purpose. It doesn't mean that you don't work hard. Like Paul says, I worked harder than all of them, yet not I, but the Lord that was working inside of me. You see? And when you find that spot, that's your field, which again, may change. Sometimes your field is you're a student. Sometimes your field, you're a stay-at-home parent. Sometimes your field is you're on quarantine, and the best thing that you can do for your field is to finish some projects around the house so that when you're off quarantine and you're working somewhere else outside of the home, that the home is ready to go and it is safe space to rest, and then you're ready to crush it out in business. Sometimes the field is taking care of an aging parent. Sometimes the field, it morphs over time, but the field for you becomes whatever it is that your purpose is, that you're called. Some of you are in a field right now that may not be like your purpose field, but you realize that the field that you're working right now, it provides gas and fuel to fund the dream field that you know is coming, or it's a purpose somewhere that is funding education and funding wisdom and funding valuable experience so that at some point you launch off on your own. You see?